What's up, guys? Chris here,
Brian here.
and today, right now, let's get a little deeper into the weeds here. Let's talk about the actual showcase event that's here, the emotions that went through it. I don't
Yes.
want to get too far down into any one aspect of it. I think those are probably separate videos we can work on over the days and weeks to come. But it was an emotional journey for the fact that it was really only kind of 2 hours long to sum up two fan fests.
Hmm.
Starting, we're just going to go through in order all the events and just kind of more of our opinion, because the previous video was really meant to just be the information. Brian, the trailer goes live. We knew there was going to be a trailer.
Yes.
What are you feeling?
I honestly am just blown away. Obviously we were all predicting kind of we're going to the moon, and it has the warrior light going to the moon. Here's the real emotional and cool connection: is that the warrior, the Derplander, he is essentially depicted as a dark knight for Shadowbringers and a paladin for Endwalker, and essentially, and there's a lot of Final Fantasy IV themes going through this. And in Final Fantasy IV, Cecil the Dark Knight eventually becomes Cecil the Paladin. And so just that just tap, that little, connective tissue right there is super cool. Obviously the lunar whale coming into play, obviously, like, with lots of questions about how this is going to work. And then, like we said in kind of the summary video, saying that 6.0 is going to be the conclusion of the expansion's story, and then also the Heideland Zodiac, like epic that we've been on for the last 10 years. So, like, there's just a lot in this. I really want this chapter to knock it out of the park. The one thing I keep seeing is you see like Xenos always sitting, like the guy is always sitting in a chair, and I just am waiting for him to do, like, he got up at one point and stepped on a weapon, as a part of a cutscene a while back. But the guy's like he's always depicted like bored in a chair, and it's like, dude, just get up and do something, man. Like, stand up, stretch, touch your toes. I don't know, Xenos. Let's let's do something. I'm tired of this, like, teasing out of him since we fought him years ago. So yeah, like, I think the I love the vibrancy of the color. I love the symbol, the artwork that they proposed here. And I love that we're getting a healer. Like, obviously they show the healer, Sage, in the trailer itself. Alphino is changing roles, and I couldn't be more excited. Like, that in and of itself, I was like, heck to the yes. What do you think, Chris?
I love that the trailers are to the combat system of Final Fantasy XIV as video games are to things like D&D.
Yeah.
Like, it just takes the imagination so much further. The game was so beautiful. It makes you want to play, even though the combat system will never look like that. Weapons being thrown down, the tail being cut off a monster, like a level of violence that is just not in the game. And I thought it was awesome. You've got the healer coming in and doing a close range heal. You've got weapons flying through the air. It's just a spectacle, and it's just pure hype. And so, like, it's not totally unbased in reality, but it's also not. It is definitely an exaggeration of the game, and that's what I get excited about trailers. So I think it was well done. It had it just makes you want to ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was fun, and I'm excited that it ended with the name Endwalker. Endwalker
Yeah.
not having an S or a B anywhere in it. Thank God. Finally, we can say 6.0 Final Fantasy Ooh. And that's exciting to have a name. We'll have an acronym. It's a bummer the acronym is OO, which kind of means gross in English, but we'll get there.
We'll take it.
Um,
It's also, it makes me think, when you think of like ooh, and then you think Heaven's Word, like, it's like there's some letters there. I replace the E and the H, flip it around. So I was like, okay, we cool. We cool.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got this.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm excited that we're getting two jobs. I'm excited
Yeah.
that I didn't think we needed two jobs, but it's nice to get them. I was shocked that the second job was going to be melee DPS.
I'm also
There's
shocked
a
that we didn't hear
0%
anything
chance
about
I
a
would've
limited
seen
job. Like, I'm really shocked that they're not like, oh, Beastmaster. Like, nothing was said about it at all. And I'm wondering, because we saw that 6.1 is where the next Ultimate fight is going to fall. Like, if limited jobs ended up just kind of getting bundled in with that kind of delay, and then it just kind of makes sense to say, they're not that, like, well received. Let's not ruin the mood, and let's just not talk about it. But yeah.
So the healer being a sage, splitting the healers into two groups,
Yeah.
I think will help with balance. I think we spent a lot of Shadowbringers saying play the way you want, inviting people into the game, making things like tanking easier, making things like crafting and gathering easier to get into, making the game just simpler to get into. This feels like a shift back the other direction a little bit. We'll see how it's tuned, but just my initial impressions is, okay, this is going to push us back into a more follow the meta. You need a shield healer and a direct healer in a group.
Yeah, and when you think about that aspect with the like having one of both being a value, we've had that in the past when they went to shift to where it's like, okay, yeah, like whatever, and it's like, okay, yeah, everybody's white mage. Like it's like, okay, like if you're not gonna, there's no like, yeah, you definitely want you want two white mages because that is just the way it's best, you know. So I'm really hoping we can see that balance between, and then it's like, okay, you got, you know, and obviously like the dungeon content, obviously like some of the content will be able to be clearable with two shield healers or two pure healers, as they say, but at the end of the day, like I'm not too worried about it.
The dungeon content's never that hard.
Yeah.
The story changes coming off the trailer, and the changes to the story and the concept art showing Hydaelyn and Zodiark instead of the the dark figure of Shadowbringers. That's a big shift in the level of like finality that one of these expansions has. I think to have a real impact, one of my issues with storytelling is when you see this in like Marvel movies where over and over and over, with rare exception, people don't die.
Yeah.
And so, you constantly have to save somebody so they can go do their own spin-off movie, and games do the very same thing. It's constantly frustrating that like we have one or two deaths and everybody's like, well, what about this one? That person died. And it's like, but that one was the exception, not the rule. That's a realm reborn of deaths where like and like it just feels like if the world is really this dangerous, if the enemies we're fighting are really this strong, at some point things have to end. You can't just keep kicking the can down the road. So I'm really excited that 6.0 is going to bring 10 years of story to some level of completion, and that they're doing it in a way that's not doesn't seem to end 14, seems to pave the way for a 7.0, and so on. So I think there's a lot there. This change in the format, I don't know if that's something they keep going with, or if that's just the nature of this is our transition expansion, and then we'll go back to a traditional format for several expansions, and then we'll do this again, where 6.0 is meant to kind of put the nail in this, and okay, 2.0 to 6.0, that's your story, and now 6.1 to 10.0 or whatever, that's your next chapter.
I hope that from 6.0 to 6.1 we see a time jump. I think that's a really great way. We saw that happen within Shadowbringers, where there's a time jump, even though it's not necessarily like from the source perspective, but from the first. Like, oh, this character, like while they were only here for a day in your time, they've actually been here for 15 years, and allowing some character development to happen and allow us to explain the way the world is now as because of all these other events. And it's like, okay, now there's some changes.
You could go backward too.
That'd be
doesn't have to be forward. We could go backward, which backward provides some interesting insight into things. It unfortunately limits. You can't have people die who then lived in the known future. Yeah. But also it allows you to dive deeper. If their goal is to be fearful of killing people, it allows you to go back and explore storylines for people that may have died along the way. So yeah, that would be awesome. I'm really excited for what that means. I feel really conflicted because like I want to get in and play the game spoiler free on stream week 1, and so it just becomes a question of like, okay, so do I need to have two characters, one to go through and just skip all the cutscenes week 1, and then one to go through and have a different stream where I'm going through all the cutscenes for the first time.
New Game Plus.
Yeah. So features wise, like all of this, people said they want to go to Garlemald. People said we wanted to go to the moon. People said they wanted to go somewhere else, another island, another continent. The answer is yes. We're doing all of these things. We're going to the island of Thavnaria. We're going to, I hear they got great onions. Yeah. We are going to Garlemald in the north. We are going to the moon as well. We know that Thavnaria is going to have our secondary capital city, and they showed off screenshots of it. Very, very cool. Lots of like, we had some Indian tones in the architecture, we had some African tones in the architecture, we had some Central and South American tones in the architecture. So they're kind of pulling from a number of styles. Very, very heavy into the saturation. You mentioned that earlier. This is going to be a very vivid expansion, and I thought Shadowbringers had a lot of vividness. This feels like they've said no, hold my beer, we've got 4K stuff coming to the PS5. Boom. Let's do this.
I think that like, and not to harp, and we're gonna probably talk about it in a specific video, but the fact that like they didn't mention it at all, an Xbox client, definitely was something that I was like, oh, like if, because this, if not now, when? And I've seen speculation about like, oh, FanFest would be the time to talk about it, and I just we'll cover it in a bigger video because I have a lot of feelings and emotions, but I would say like overall 99% of this was insanely positive, and the fact that we didn't get that, I'm just like, what the f? Let's like
Yeah.
even like I don't know like yeah, so
The two big negative pieces of information, and then maybe any other like small, I wish that was done a little differently. I think that needs to be kind of one video because most of this is really positive. So I'd rather just kind of isolate the fact. It's like, yes, it's not 100% positive, and I think that is a separate video where we can talk about that more as a specific set of things.
yeah.
And then that way, anybody who doesn't want any of the negativity surrounding this can just enjoy the 95% that really is overwhelmingly exciting. Overwhelmingly, could not be a better time to be a player of 14.
I'm excited to see what they haven't shared yet because we know more battle system changes are on the way, and they focus a lot on the stat squish. I am perfectly fine with that. I was like, great, that makes like it's fine, cool, balance that out, let's go. Essentially, they've done that kind of before in 14, but they did it with Gil. Like whenever we went from 1.0 to 2.0, they just said, oh, we're cutting off a couple zeros off of everybody's money. There you go. You know, and because it happens to everybody, it's balanced in that regard. So like it's not like that. So it's happening to enemies. It's happening to everything. Being that we've got an enemy in patch 5.5 with 440 million HP. I think that's a lot. And he says that this will help reduce bugs. This will help reduce packets. This is just overall a good, healthy thing for a game. And this is something that tends to happen in long running MMO games. Now
it's a sign that we're not done.
Right.
It's a sign. 6.0, if it was really just pushing up against capabilities, they would continue to bug and patch fix it through 6.0 and then just let the game die. But the fact that the game's going into 7.0, the fact that they had to address this is a sign that we're not done with this client.
My hope is that the other side of the battle system changes. We've talked about like, well, I want to see like, are they going to change how syncing works? Like, there's all kinds of things. They did say that with level syncing or like being unsynced content, there will be a difference there. It will actually be a little bit more challenging, which is fine. Like at the end of the day, you're already unsynced, so you're already overpowered in that content in the first place. So we need to see how that plays out. But yeah, like I'm happy they addressed it. They did spend a lot of time talking about it, and obviously I don't think you and I were the audience for that conversation because there's a lot of people out there going like, what? Wait, what does that mean?
They've never lived through one.
Right, and it's
lots of games do them,
and it's not going to feel good when you go from like, oh, mine 100K crit down to a 10K crit, but that's the same, like it's the same value. Just they're just cutting it off a zero.
Yeah.
And
we don't know what the scale amount is, but yeah.
Yeah, and so they've been so that's something that we're working towards with that, and I'm that's kind of the like it's. I was hoping they would cover some more things because they did talk about PvP changes, which has us both excited, really interested to see what that kind of how that plays out. We'd love to see kind of more vibrant PvP community, and the fact they're removing roles. I was like, yes. I would still like to see, like just get people in, get people playing. I would personally like to see that, you know, if healers became more of a green DPS as a part of PvP, but like a healer likes to play a healer because they like to heal. But from a PvP perspective, it's like we found that the team that wins is the team that has the better healer. You know, it's just like if your healer's out is just out healing y'all and the other team. The team with the better one wins. And right now, like we felt like when we're doing customs with a healer, it's like, okay, maybe there's 2 or 3 deaths per round, and that's who determines the victor. But when you take that healing out, like it's like a lot of people going in and out, you're getting back up, you're going back, and it changes how you play. So who knows? Like I don't think they're doing that, but at least they're removing their role restriction. So hopefully that means that people aren't going to be waiting 30 plus minutes for a match or having to organize communities outside the game. So I'm thrilled by that aspect. I can't wait to go hands on with what this thing is, and hopefully it's something that we've all wanted for a while. We'll have to wait and see though.
Yeah, as storytelling elements, the fact that we're getting all original instanced content is really exciting. I love crossover events in the game as additional content. When crossover events feel like they override content for this game, it feels like they've taken away a chance to explore a different element of the story. I think Sorrows of Warlit is a chance where like you can have playfulness of fan service, but you can still tie into exploring deeper parts of the characters that we care about, as opposed to the near raids where I felt personally a little bit detached there. So for the fact that this expansion is meant to kind of bring a lot of things to a close, I am really excited that the raid and the Alliance raid, I personally think it's really good news that that's being brought in-house. And it
Yeah.
doesn't mean it can't have some playfulness within other 14 themes or within other Final Fantasy themes, music choices, boss choices. Doesn't mean there can't be some kind of homage, but I think the fact that it's a truly original story in house, I think that's good news in my opinion. And the fact that we get less of it per patch, we know that we're down to one dungeon per patch. As we see less and less instanced content, it's even more important to me that that's story based.
Mm-hmm.
And then for feature list, seeing the trust updates,
Mm-hmm.
seeing the golden saucer updates, seeing the island sanctuary updates, seeing Ishgard restoration continuing to get love.
Mm-hmm.
They're not done surprising us with side content for this game.
And outside of content, cross data center, being able to go and data center visit is massive. I think that's going to be hugely important, and I think that's going to really help strengthen the community that's already there, especially when it's like, hey, maybe your friends aren't actively playing right now, but you have another friend, or like, hey, let me just, you don't have to create another character, you don't have to go level up, you don't have to spend money, you can just go and visit. And while it's not going to be like just like pressing a button and you're there, it's still going to have some like mechanical things to it. I think that's going to be a real boon for the community itself to be able to play the game, have fun, and go nuts.
Can we do hunts? Can we do bicolor gemstone farms? Can we go into Baldesian Arsenal
Yeah.
and do Eureka farms? Will Delibrum, Renege, and Castrum have a continued life because of this? Just expanding the number of players that have access to each other, even if it ends up just being NA to NA, EU to EU, JP to JP, even if it ends up being restrictive in that way, I think the data center splits really frustrated a lot of the community. This takes it back the other direction. So the fact that we did all that in a single expansion, remember the data center splits were part of us going into Shadowbringers. And so here we are, one fan fest later, and we're already ready to correct this. So he said at the time, this is just a technical limitation. As soon as I can fix it, I will. And this says like, okay, I can already start to fix this. And so this is a step in the right direction. Could not be more excited about that. I'm excited for client updates. I'm excited for the PS5 stuff, the data center stuff, the belts. All of this tells me that at the core level, there are engine upgrades. Maybe not an engine replacement, but there are engine upgrades happening. An engine was the one thing I wanted to see from this event. Everything else, like I knew we'd see stuff about dungeons. I knew we'd see stuff about story. And no matter what they told me, I'd be excited about it. So yes, I'm excited to know what I'm excited about. But like these engine upgrades, these are the things that tell me I'm investing my time and my energy in a game that's not going anywhere, at least for now. And the fact that Yoshi P said he's sticking around for a while, it just really tells me like 6.0 is just another chapter. And I'm personally really excited about it.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to see how this concludes. This has been a decade of my life of playing this game and this story and living with these characters. I'm really excited to see where it goes. I really hope that they have an ending fit to this journey that we've been on together. And I'm excited to see where the future takes us, especially when you talk about like these engine things that they're working on. Obviously it's slow going. There's things that like I think we want specifically, and the community wants as a whole. And as long as like Yoshi P and then the team are working hard on it, like hopefully it's going to be something that we can enjoy for another 10 years, another 20 years, and so on and so forth. So that's going to be something we'll have to wait and see. Those are my thoughts, Chris. I'm excited to see where this takes us. I really cannot wait to play Sage. I'm not going to lie. Like Sage looks amazing. That weapon looks freaking incredible. I am very excited to dive into that, and I can't wait to share more thoughts on that as we get hopefully hands-on with it sometime this summer.
I think that's our general kind of blast through everything. It takes the reaction portion out of the previous video where we went just point by point on what the news itself was. And so anything in there we didn't have a really strong reaction got mentioned in that one. And so that's kind of our general response to the 2-hour showcase event. We will get another part of it May 15th and 16th, totally free with music. With if you want to buy the mount and the 3 minions, that'll be a thing for sale. They've got the shirts for sale. They've got a lot. I mean, they are really good at merchandising this game. Merchandising, they're crushing it. Literally to the point that you can buy Essence of Kugane, Essence of Ul'dah to make your house smell like Ul'dah. I don't know what the Ul'dah smells like, but you can now order it. And so it was delightful to get to do this and get to hang out with the community. I'm I'm just excited. I think we've got a lot more to sit and dive in on these points individually and explore our thoughts as as we slowly get more sleep on the matter. How
Yeah.
do we really feel about this? And start to speculate. I think a lot of people are tossing out speculation of what that melee job will be. Some people think necromancer. Some people think like a judge or a Templar type thing. Some people want like a gladiator. They're basing this on, oh, it looks like it might have a scythe. Looks like it could be a hammer class. Like, let the speculation games begin. In hindsight, of course, it'll be obvious, but until then, there will be people who know for a fact that they're correct, and depending on their track record with things like Male Vieira, Blue Mage, Samurai, and all that, people may or may not have known what it feels like to get it wrong before. It's easy to say we knew once they announce,
Yeah.
but let the speculation begin.
Just not Geomancer.
Healthy speculation. Don't get yourself so hyped that now if they don't deliver your dream that you're upset.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great game. They are working on it, but let the season of hype and the season of excitement at a healthy level begin, and just be prepared that no matter what it is, it comes from a place of love, and that it's going to be majority good content.
Absolutely. All right, that's it for us for today. For Work to Game, my name is Brian.
My name's Chris.
Thanks so much for watching. We hope to see you in our next one, but until then,
take care.